Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Christina, and in today's video, we are going to recap February. I cannot believe that February is over, and we are going to talk about March plans and goals. I feel like I say this every month, but February flew by. It was so fast. We did a lot of traveling, a lot of skiing and snowboarding, a lot, surprise, surprise, of unschooling, meaning we did not lean heavily on formal academics or curriculum, although we did use it. So I wanted to share with you some things that we actually got to in February, some places that we went and some things that we did, and what our plans are for March. So let me know down in the comments, what did you do in February? How did it go? What worked well? Maybe what didn't work well? And what do you have planned for March? Before we get into the curriculum stuff, though, there has been so much roller skating and skateboarding around my house when we've been home. Like, is anyone else? First of all, I know some people wouldn't allow their kids to do that, and I've thought about that many times. But at the same time, I'm like, it's cold outside, and then days that it's not that cold, it's like muddy, and yeah, and it like keeps them busy and it gets their energy out for days that like we're not really going anywhere. It could be ruining my beautiful hardwood floors, but like you weigh it out, right? My husband's like, just let them burn their energy. So they've been doing lots of roller skating in the house and lots of skateboarding in the house. Mostly my three youngest kids. My older two boys, there's like not room for them to do that. And they can go out and ride their bikes without me and stuff like that. So they don't need it as much. But my younger three have been doing lots of roller skating and skateboarding in the house. And one of the things that has been really cool is that they, my 12-year-old finally built his elos DIY skateboard. It actually just happens to be right here because they're skateboarding through my house. This thing is so cool. It is obviously not your traditional skateboard. It is like a cruiser board that can fit in a backpack, which is pretty amazing. My oldest son brought his to Colorado with us, which was really cool because he was able to bring a skateboard in his backpack and his carry-on. So really cool. They have them like pre-built, but they also have these DIY kits. And because we homeschool and because I like them to do things with their hands and learn how to use instructions and all of those things, we did get the DIY kits. And what's so cool about the DIY kits is it comes with everything you would possibly need. So the board, the wheels, the bearings, all of the hardware, step-by-step instructions, and the tools that you need to build the board as well. So I really feel like this was the perfect project for my 12-year-old where he was able to be hands-on, build something he could use, follow instructions while also not really having to figure out how to do it because it is so user-friendly. So even the way everything became boxed and labeled, including having this workspace that shows you exactly where to lay out each of the things that you're going to use, I've just never seen something so well executed. All that being said, although the elos DIY kit makes it very user-friendly, there are still areas where problem solving and critical thinking come into play, as there are things that maybe need to be changed that weren't put on the right way or don't seem to be functioning how they're supposed to. And so I really loved how my 12-year-old was able to follow this structure and these guidelines that were so well put in place, but then at the same time troubleshoot and figure out how to do things in a way that is going to be most efficient and also perform well. So especially if you live in a place where you have to count and log and keep track of school hours, I feel confident including this activity as some kind of shop class or building. It definitely counts for something to be able to take the time to follow the instructions, to successfully build it, to create a working, simple machine. So check out elos in the description box below if you think it's something that you might be interested in. So that is something also that we did in the month of February is my 12-year-old built his board. He did it alongside my 5-year-old who was kind of just observing and assisting and things like that. So I feel like those are the things about homeschool that I love the most, like watching them do DIY projects and build things and modify things and just really use their minds and their hands in ways that like I'm not always directing and guiding. So presenting them with these opportunities to inspire them and engage them, but not being like, here's your assignment and then here's your test that you've done it, right? My 16-year-old has done a lot of modifying of his mini bike. He's modified his airsoft guns, a dirt bike, and also his regular bike that he just made a couple adjustments on with tires and things to make it more like a BMX bike. So he's really been enjoying doing those things, like working on small engines and troubleshooting and modifying. Like those are all such useful skills that can be so easily overlooked in a traditional education, not only in school, but even just traditional homeschooling. Sometimes we don't always think that those things they like count as learning, but they are learning. My 16-year-old said something funny to me. He's like, somebody asked me like, what do we do for PE? And I'm like, and he had such a good answer. He was like, and I just thought about it and I was like, PE is like a made up thing that you need to do for kids that are in school because they're sitting in desks for most of the day. Like we don't need to do PE. We're like living our lives and we're really active and we play basketball and we ride our bikes and we skateboard and we hike and we snowboard. And I'm like, yes, you are 100% right. So I wanted to share those things because those things are just as much a part of our day, if not more a part of our days, than the curriculum. So now that I got that out of the way, let's start with my wish list for February. So if you are familiar with my planner that I use all the time, there's always a wish list, and that's kind of like where I brain dump all the things that I want to get to. It doesn't look like I put a ton of things on there for February. I think I was just like doing something quick. These are the curriculums that we want to get to, and I didn't worry about writing down much more than that. So I had health and the physical body was on my list. This is curriculum from The Good and the Beautiful that I'm doing with all of my kids, but mostly focused on my 8, 12, and 16-year-olds. We did continue this. We only did it a couple times. I think we are only on like lesson 5 at this point. I think there are 14 lessons. And so we're taking our time. We're not in a big rush. We've definitely learned things and that's all I care about. So still doing that. We did do that and we will continue that throughout March and however long it takes us to finish that. The Precious People is an ancient history curriculum, literature-based, project-based, Charlotte Mason style from the Peaceful Press. We did not start that yet, and I'm okay with that. I even contemplated throughout the month waiting until like August, September to start it because of the fact that it like walks through the Jewish feasts, the biblical feasts in order starting around that time. And I thought it would make sense to kind of like do that while they're happening, but I don't think we're going to do that because we did actually start the other ancient history curriculum that we are blending with that one, which is Ancient Civilizations from Gather Round Homeschool. We did actually start that one. And although we've only gotten through the first lesson, I'm really liking it. Already my kids were really excited. They were like, is that Gather Round? Because we used to do way more Gather Round years ago. And so it's kind of nice to be doing it again. I love that we can read the lesson all together. Like for example, the first lesson we did not do in one sitting, although sometimes we do that. This time we broke up the first lesson into 2 different sittings for the readings, and then they had their independent work to do in their different student level notebooks. I told you guys I was going to give you a flip through of this and The Precious People. So both ancient history curriculums that we're using and blending together. And I am still going to do that next week, I promise. My very next video will be a flip through of those 2 curriculums. So be on the lookout for those. The Long Winter is the next book in the Little House series. And we did not start this yet, which is crazy. I thought for sure we were going to like read the whole book in February, or at least most of it, and we did not. So I do still want to read it before winter's up. I want to be reading The Long Winter in winter. I just need that to happen. So we are starting that this week, okay? I'm making that I'm making that commitment. We're starting it this week. What we have been reading is this book, Dulu, and I shared this with you guys in a video a couple weeks ago, a book haul that I did, and this is a really interesting allegory of the gospel, of the spiritual world, and so we're really liking this so far. We're not that far into it, but we are really liking it so far. Very interesting. We've also been doing Hello Peace. I shared this in that same book haul, and this is a family devotional to pursue peace in the home and within. I thought this was going to be good. It's incredible. The spiritual depth and sound doctrine, and the fact that it is like spirit-filled and not just like whatever you want to call it, it's beautiful. It's lovely. We are enjoying this so much. And there's like a QR code to a worship playlist, and the first one on there has been like a family favorite lately. So highly recommend this. This is from Anna Bruce, who I've had the pleasure of spending time with in person, and she's lovely, her family's lovely, and her devotional has really impressed me. It's been such a blessing to my family already. So we are excited to continue that throughout the month of March as well. We are also still working through Wonderful Ancient Psalms Ever New. I think we're on like Psalm 42. So we have been staying pretty consistent with this. I really like the style of it. I like that it kind of walks you through the Psalms, and there are some illustrations and narratives in here along the way. So highly recommend this one as well. We'll be continuing that in March as well. My Brother's Keeper, I don't have in front of me. Somehow we are still not done with My Brother's Keeper. It's by Not Consume Ministries. It is a family Bible study. We love it. We really do. I think it's wonderful. It just, for whatever reason, like we just aren't that consistent with it. So we will continue to do it. Who knows when we will finish it? It is like 20 lessons and we've been doing it for like 6 months. I don't know. Start economics curriculum for my 16-year-old was something that we planned to do. We did actually do that. We are using Economics for Everybody, which takes a biblical approach to money and wealth and economics. So really, really liking that for my 16-year-old. We made the decision to stop traditional math for him. I don't know if I mentioned that at all in a video or not. He was working through Saxon math. Honestly, like, he asked me the question of like, when am I ever going to use this? And I really did not have a good answer for him. And this is like, could be a whole video in and of itself, but I really feel like he has gone far enough in traditional math that if he needs something beyond that for a future career choice, he can learn it then. So we decided to shift gears and focus on economics. We'll be focusing on personal finance next, entrepreneurship, those kinds of things that he really feels like are more applicable to him at this point. He also just got his first like on the books job. I've shared previously that he has worked for people as almost like an apprentice and learning skills in construction, and him and my other son started a lawn care business, and that slowed down because they were going to do a lot of shoveling in the winter, because usually we get hit with a lot of snow in the Northeast, but this year we have not. So they have not really had much to do on that front, but I am sure when there are opportunities for that, they will continue that because they really enjoyed it and they really made good money. So we're really excited for him with his new job. And so that's something new as well. Survive Off the Land was the last thing on my list, and I had planned on moving on to the second lesson in it. The first one was all about chickens and eggs, and look at how long it is. I mean, I don't feel bad that it took us this long to get through lesson 1, because this is lesson 1. It is so in depth, but it was so good and it was so interesting. We are going to move on to lesson 2, which was all about raw milk, and I'm really interested to get into that. But they also have the optional core connections that touches on more core subjects, or you dig deeper into core subjects that correlate with the lessons. And so before we moved on to lesson 2, I was like, you know what? Let me print out core connections. We will do that first. It's going to be kind of like a review / other lens to look through American history. And so hopefully it doesn't feel like we're beating a dead horse. We really should have done this. We still have not gotten to it. One day I was like, hey guys, do you want to do this or do you want to start this? And they were like, let's do ancient civilizations. So I actually thought they were going to choose this, but they didn't. So Learning does not have to be linear. We will probably be toggling back and forth between these two. We also have the other ancient history curriculum that we will be pulling from. And if this overwhelms you and this style of homeschooling is like, oh my gosh, that is way too much, I need one thing for each subject and that is it, then more power to you. Do what works for you. I'm just sharing what we do. So this is the Precious People, but we have not started this yet. So we will probably start this in March because I do want to be doing these alongside each other. Like, I'm not looking to do this for weeks and weeks or months and months and then jump into this and be in different time periods. That's not my intention with this. My intention with this is to add in the project-based and the literature-based aspects of this curriculum to beef up the Gather Round curriculum a little bit, because this is like a 4 to 5 week, 20 lesson curriculum. This is a year-long curriculum. I didn't necessarily want to do it this short, but I didn't want to do it for a year, so I'm kind of blending them in that way. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, I want to talk to you guys about things other than curriculum though, like our trips, our extracurriculars, what we've been doing, because homeschooling is not just about the curriculum. Curriculum, I feel like, is such a small part of homeschooling, and it gets so much airtime, so much attention, so much of our like brain space. And so things that were really life-giving in February were mostly not curriculum. Like, yes, my kids did some independent work. They did not do it daily. They're not doing math and language arts daily. We do not have a specific schedule of when we're doing them. When we're home and I feel like we need to jump in, like, hey, you guys need to knock out a couple math lessons this week. You need to do some language arts. Make sure you're reading. Like, we're reading a lot while we're on the road, but usually the math and language arts are not coming with us. So when we are home, I do encourage them to focus on those things, and I do hold them accountable to focus on those things when we are home. But we do not finish a year-long curriculum that is independent studies in a year, because we're not doing it every day. And I am totally fine with that, because if they are learning, if they are continuing to progress in that knowledge and those skills, that's good enough for me, because the nuanced things that they are learning through everything else that we're doing is so important and so rich, and something that cannot be learned in a textbook or in a classroom. Trips that we took 2 trips during the month of February. Both were in the Catskills, which is interesting because it was not intentional, just the way that it happened. One was in the Western Catskills and one was in the Eastern Catskills, and they're not super different, but they were both ski trips, and we stayed in Airbnbs in both of them. So the first one was in the Western Catskills. We stayed at the Hunter House, and it was so beautiful. It was so nice. It was up on a mountain. It was really big, really fresh and new and modern. It's a newer build, and it's on a bunch of land, and there was a big hill in the backyard that the kids were able to sled down, because we did get some snow while we were there, which was so fun. They had a hot tub, so we were soaking in the hot tub in the snow and watching the sunset and all of those wonderful things, cooking good food, eating. The entire basement was a game room, so the kids were able to like play ping pong and air hockey and darts, the magnetic ones, basketball, and there was just so much for kids to do there. It was such a beautiful place for families to stay. 4 full bedrooms, 2 full baths, really open floor plan. So we really, really loved it. I would highly recommend it. I will link that one down below. When we stayed there, we actually went skiing and snowboarding at Bel Air Mountain. Skiing and snowboarding has been such a huge part of our homeschooling this winter. Once a week for the last 8 weeks, we have gone skiing and snowboarding, and it has been so good for all of us to be outside that much, breathing fresh air, getting the vitamin D from the sun when the sun has been out, moving our bodies and just doing something fun and active and something that we all enjoy has been such a blessing. The first 6 weeks I've shared was with a homeschool, like learn to ski and snowboard program at Otis Ridge. I will link that down below. If you live in driving distance of Massachusetts, which is where Otis Ridge is, I highly recommend it. We will probably do it again next year. Not for my older boys, because I don't necessarily think they need it. My oldest son is considering being a snowboarding instructor for that program, because he has just like taken off with it and really loves it. But we've also had the opportunity to try out a few other mountains, one of which was Bel Air Mountain in the Western Catskills. It was about 45 minutes from where we were staying, but it was a beautiful drive through the mountains, and we really liked Bel Air. I shared over on my Instagram kind of like a full review of it. So if you want to hear more about Bel Air, then definitely go check that out over on my Instagram. I shared some pros and cons because there were definitely lots of pros and some cons. So go check that out. The second place that we stayed was more on the eastern side of the Catskills. We stayed at the Hunter Cabin, so very similar names, but not near each other and very different. And this was by Upstate of Mind Homes. They have 2 different homes in the Catskills, and this one was stunning. It was like an A-frame style, but not technically an A-frame, but the front looks like an A-frame with this huge wall of windows that look directly at Hunter Mountain and the ski slopes on Hunter Mountain. So 4 minutes away this time. So we also got to try out Hunter Mountain. We loved Hunter Mountain. As of right now, Hunter Mountain has risen to the top of our list of places to go. And I shared why also in a post or in a reel over on Instagram. So if you're interested in knowing more about why that has risen to the top of the list, go check that out. Highly recommend it. I would highly recommend staying at the Hunter Cabin because it is beautiful. It has the perfect mix of Catskill, like old Catskill charm and modern luxurious updates. It was like beautiful. And 4 minutes from where you're gonna ski or snowboard, you can't beat that. So I will link that place down below as well. Both of those places were 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. Oh my gosh. The master bath, this beautiful tub, and just, you'll have to go check it out. It's linked in the description. When you're watching this video, we will have also gone to a 3rd mountain and stayed at a 3rd Airbnb, but as I am filming it, we have not gone yet, but I will give you a little bit of a heads up. It is the Whimsical Chalet in the Pocono Mountains, and we will be skiing and snowboarding at Camelback Resort. So we are really excited, but we're doing that from the 26th to the 28th. So I wouldn't be home to film this video to put it up on the 1st. So I'm doing it a little bit, just a couple days ahead of time. So in my March video, or maybe sooner, and definitely sooner over on Instagram, I'll be sharing more about the place that we stay in the Poconos in Pennsylvania and skiing and snowboarding at Camelback, and I'll give you a full review of those as well. I hope you enjoyed hearing all about our February and some of our plans for March. I also wanted to share with you that next week, March 6th, the Spring Mega Bundle releases, and my contribution to the Mega Bundle this time is all about reflecting and planning for both moms and kids. So if that's something that you want a little bit of help with, to be a little bit more intentional about, definitely be on the lookout for that. I'll be sure to share it more over here next week and over on Instagram. I hope to see you soon in one of my next videos, and until next time, stay rooted.